Hey everybody, welcome to Connecting Cannabis, brought to you by Razzle and the Razzle Cannabis Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Brian Holler. Today's guest is Elvira Guzman. She's an author, cannabis consultant, entrepreneur extraordinaire. She'll be here talking about her journey and what she's doing now, how she's worked with cannabis companies, and other entrepreneurial endeavors in her life. Very interesting stories that she has to tell, and we really look forward to getting into that with her. But first, of course, we'd like to hear a word from our gracious sponsor. Medicus LP was created after their team discovered that very few avenues existed for investment in professionally managed public equity funds. As a result, they created a long biased limited partnership, Medicus, for accredited individuals and organizations that will invest in public exchange traded companies in the cannabis space. Investor net asset values are calculated on a monthly basis by their administrator, Klein Fund Services, and audited annually by Spicer Jeffries. This provides full transparency for investors. Their prime broker is BTIG and custodian is Pershing. Medicus started investing in January 2020. To learn more about Medicus, please visit their website at medicuslp.com. And for more information about their current investment opportunity, please visit the Razzle Investment Marketplace at razzle.com. Welcome back to Connecting Cannabis. Elvira, welcome so much. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, as always. Well, let's hop right on in, as we do. Let's give a little bit about your background in general for those few people out there who might not be aware of who you are.
Definitely. So I've worked in Hollywood for the last 19 years, and I've been the brand strategist to many celebrities, companies like 93.5 K-Day or Steve Harvey or Music Soul Child. And I focus on managing their brand and helping them achieve their goals.
Yep. A brand strategist encompasses a lot of different material. So your specialty, what are some of your specialties?
Some of my specialties are publicity, social media. I would also say in helping them strategize and create a plan for success, because a lot of people don't know that without a plan, you're really not going to get anywhere. It's not enough to just have goals.
Absolutely. And on top of that, as you guys might suspect, Elvira's being a little modest, because the things that also help that are event planning, event coordination, managing social media content creation, events, bottom line is there's a lot that goes into it. And, Elvira's done a pretty darn good job in her history getting there. So that was basically your background, right? You were doing, working with some celebrities and being a brand strategist. What kind of got you steered towards the cannabis industry?
Well, I fell ill when I was 26 years old, and I didn't know if it was cancerous or not. And so I started to Google what kills cancer cells. And one of those things happened to be cannabis. And so I decided to start using the miraculous plant, and the next thing you know, my body is completely healed. And one of my good friends in Jamaica actually does a huge event called Cannabis, and I told him what happened. He was keeping up with my story on Facebook, and he asked me to speak at his event. And once I spoke at Cannabis, I was able to connect with other cannabis entrepreneurs, and I knew that this was an industry that I wanted to be a part of.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And your story, while very inspiring, is relatively, that's what happens a lot of times with people. Maybe it's different illness or what have you, but ultimately something happens to them. They want to seek all options, as any good person would want to do, and then they discover a healthy plant-based option that might work for them in terms of not having so much byproducts of things, and boom, and of course that would inspire you to not only work in the industry, but also to be an advocate, right?
Definitely. I know for me, I grew up with a lot of negative propaganda for the plant. And so I kept it secret for many years. But once I found out how it healed my body and what it did for my depression and anxiety, I felt that I needed to bring more awareness to it so that people that are perhaps not just my age, but older, will want to try it at least once to see the effects versus listening to the negative propaganda that they've been fed for years.
Exactly. That's part and parcel of what Razzle does, and certainly the broadcast network is one of its, key points and themes is destigmatizing, the plant, telling stories like your own that can inspire people, or to at least give them a different perspective on things. Absolutely. And So that would make sense that you would dive into cannabis. Also, you're in the Southern California area, lots of, celebrities, celebrity brands. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that kind of, that you would at least be flirting with those waters a little bit prior to, that happening too. So,
Yeah, and
you
it's
know,
so interesting. Actually, my Hollywood past helped me in the cannabis industry because once I started venturing to work into it, I reached out to John Sally, who I actually worked with 15 years prior at 100.3 The Beat. I was actually his morning show producer when he was in radio. And so 15 years later, I knew that he had been in the cannabis industry for a long time. I reached out, we connected, and now I have the ability and the privilege to work with him and his daughter for their company, Deuces 22. So I believe that everything is already set up for us. We just have to obey and say, okay, it doesn't matter what people think. I'm going to work in this industry no matter what.
yes, and that leads to basically overcoming adversity, hurdles, etc. And I know you personally, so I know there's things that you've been through in your life. But let's kind of get to that internal drive. You have a sickness. You discover that cannabis helps it. It drives you to be an advocate and also to work in the industry. How did you address people who maybe kind of turned a weird eye to you about that, or maybe family or friends who didn't understand? How did you change from, like you had mentioned before that, kind of keeping it a little secret to yourself, right? How did you gain the strength to kind of come out and start talking about it, and then B, what were some of the things you talked about? What were some of the techniques you used to discuss this with people who didn't know?
That's an excellent question. A lot of people tend to get a little frustrated or angry when people tell them, oh, you're smoking weed, you're a pothead, or they tell you negative things. But if you just answer with hatred back, no one's going to win. So what I have loved to do is I give them knowledge, and I tell them the benefits of it. I show them things that I've done research on to tell them, hey, this can not just help people who have cancer or PTSD or anxiety, but it has all kinds of other benefits. So once they have the knowledge, then they stop saying those comments, and they most likely will start to consume in private on their own until they're ready to come out of the closet about it.
Exactly, and boy, haven't we seen a lot of that in our day. But better that they're getting there. You know what I mean? Like better that they're getting exposed to it and not pushing out just kind of triggered propaganda stuff that's been kind of implanted in their head over the days. I guess.
And what's funny is actually, before actually working in the industry, many of my CEO clients who are the top of the film company industry, they would smoke with me. But then when I would go to happy hour with their employees, they would have a negative idea about it. And of course, I'd be like, wow, the mentality of people. But then I would be like, here's the benefits, this and then I would say secretly, well, your boss does it.
Right? And I know after a while, you just get to know so many successful people from all walks of life that are using it. Especially if you've been, I don't know, like especially in your case, you've been around a lot of people in Hollywood and that sort of thing, or even in mine, I've been in big business, around big business people and different things like that, and it's really more. It's so imperative that folks at that level actually say something about their consumption. I do you all do you ever talk to your clients about this kind of issue?
Yeah, definitely. So when I speak to my corporate clients, I tell them that just like what you said, it's important that they share the information, because I think there's a negative stereotype of what a person who smokes cannabis or consumes cannabis looks like. A lot of people think that they're lazy or that they have no drive, but that is completely the opposite. So I definitely agree with you. And I tell them, you should open up and tell your employees, because maybe they will perhaps drink less and smoke more. And I'm sure you've seen the gifs and the memes out there. When you smoke, you wake up excited, and when you drink, you wake up not so happy.
That's yes. In fact, I actually had a really interesting conversation with somebody not just a couple of episodes ago. They were working on. She works with cannabinoids and terpenes, and they were actually they're trying to work on basically a hangover cure using CBD, which you have some products out there already that are claiming to do that, but they were really getting into the science behind it, which I thought was fascinating. Like cannabis, not only could it be a recreational relief for somebody, it could also help you from this other one that we use a lot that it makes you wake up and, not feel so great sometimes if you've abused it a little bit. OHIEnergetics has the most advanced water-soluble CBD on the market. Its fast-acting, most viable products are made without synthetics. Most users feel the benefits with proper dosage in under 30 seconds, not 30 minutes like a regular CBD rich oil. Their products are created using organic ingredients and regenerative farming practices benefiting both people and the planet. OHIEnergetics provides CBD users with a dependable bridge to optimal living, promoting everyday health and well-being. To see their products, visit OHIEnergetics.com. And to learn more about their current investment opportunity, visit their profile in the Razzle investment marketplace at razzle.com. I'm saying, right? It'd be huge. You're like, can I get those people's number? I know. I'm like, yeah, I'm on it, all right. And so, obviously you make your way into cannabis. You are a consultant, but, what does that mean? Are you still doing brand strategy, or are you doing a few other things with cannabis companies now?
So the same thing that I did in Hollywood, I just brought that strategy over to the cannabis industry. So I was always taught to diversify my clients. So I don't just want to work with podcasts, or I don't just want to work with events, or I don't just want to work with entrepreneurs in the cannabis industry. I want to work with everyone, so that if one sector of the market goes down, I still have a way to make a living, and I'm still able to perhaps help the sector that is not doing so well with my other clients. So that's what I've been doing. And it also is very exciting. So I get to go to fancy awards in other countries, and I still get to do things here like green talks with B-roll from Cypress Hill. Right. It's super exciting to be able to work with people that you listen to when you were younger. So I just brought that strategy over so I could keep it fun.
Yeah, it still blows me away to meet some of the people that I've met. It's just craziness. Like, I'm like, I was listening to you when I was 14 years old, bumping you in my car, and now here you are shaking my hand. Like, wow.
Definitely. One person that I actually met when you and I were at an event together at the Weed Maps Museum, yep, is Wiz Khalifa's mom. And yep, since that day, when she spoke and she shared her story, we've become great friends. And I just say that when you meet people in the cannabis industry, you know that they're genuine, you know that they're kind, and you know that they're people that you're going to want to work with and have a relationship with forever.
Absolutely. And, being authentic helps that happen, help being yourself, being who you need to be. And actually going back a little bit to your business model you were talking about, one thing I really like about that is, as a consultant, you're right. You want to protect yourself. You want to make sure that you have as many options as you can. On the upside of that, doing that, it allows you a lot more entrepreneurial activities or opportunities, right? For instance, say writing a book of some kind, for instance, or things like that might come around as a ways, opportunities for you that you might not have seen, right? And then, of course, you also can be a kind of a person who glues those industries together if there's opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and that's actually what I found. It's become incredibly, I wouldn't say easy, but I don't have to use as much resources or time working in the cannabis industry, because it's a very small industry, and one person's need the other person can solve quickly, and it makes me really happy to be able to connect those dots for them. And like I said, like doing these VIP cannabis events, they're incredibly fun, and just seeing the reaction from people. I've been able to get emails and text messages from people who said, oh, we love the goodie bag that we got, and we've been using these ointments, and my knee pain is, completely gone. So just getting those testimonials. And this happened to be from a woman who was in her 60s that came to the event. So that just makes me really, really happy to be able to bring people some relief, but in a positive and great way where you could also meet other people.
Yeah, it's we like win-wins. We like things that have, or we actually like win-wins, right? So I mean, so if you can do the more, and that's actually, Elvira, that's a theme of this show is, how are people juggling the kind of internal struggle that a lot of us go through, which is like, okay, I'm profiting, I'm helping. I'm profiting, I'm helping, right? How do you, just you as a entrepreneur, as a person of influence, how do you deal with that kind of balance?
I actually give opportunities to other women that perhaps don't have the connections that I have. So I have a team of 5 women that are all over the US, and we're growing. And my goal is to get 10 women who perhaps they don't have the 19 years of experience, and they don't have a Rolodex where people are reaching out to them for business. So what I do is I share my opportunities, and I share what I call a little bit of my light with them so that they have a little bit of hope. And once I fully train them on how to send these emails, how to do these cold calls, how to do follow-ups where you can land a deal, I feel that not only are we making money because I share the profits, but I'm setting them up for success. And that, as you know, feels better than any check that you could get, is giving someone a little bit of hope and an opportunity in an industry that they want to work in.
Yep, it's very admirable, and that is exactly, in my estimation, how you should do things. Obviously, we're out to make money. We're out to make money to an extent. We want to protect ourselves, we want to help our families, our friends, etc. We want to help the greater society, and in order to do that, you need money. And so you have to kind of go for that. But Elvira, you make a great point. The best way, or one of the best ways, I should say, to kind of balance that approach for an entrepreneur or an owner of a business is to provide opportunity, or to provide a lot of value, not just to your clients, but to your coworkers, your colleagues, the people you're working with, right?
Definitely. I remember one instance that is in my mind is when I did Lettucey's book signing. And I had met a homeless girl the night before when I went to a meeting with Beyonce's road manager, who was on the floor with the sign, and no one was paying attention to her. And she was a young girl, maybe 24, 25, but she looked like 17, 18 with no makeup. And I said, stand up. You don't have to be below anybody anymore. I took her shopping the next day. I got her the clothing she needed, and I gave her that job to work at Lettucey's book signing. And she told me that really, really helped and motivated her. She said, because nobody had even looked in her eyes for 6 months. And her story was so sad, where her mom died. Her dad had never been a part of her life. And I would say maybe 3 months after that experience, she called me. She's like, I have an apartment now. I am doing so well. I have a boyfriend. And I'll never forget that, situation, because I know that one day somebody did that for me. And that was Steve Harvey. He helped me when my parents were in jail, when I had no light, no hope, and I had no experience. So for him to be like, hey, come work in Hollywood, I feel that I have to do it to another person so that they could see what it feels like, and to know that a stranger cares about you. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Could not be right. And thank you for sharing that story. That's really, really inspiring and amazing. Also, Steve Harvey, that's pretty impressive. It says a lot about, whatever you think about Steve, like that he has longevity. I think maybe that's part of the reason, right? He understands the value of helping people, and you can't really fault a person for being successful because he was able to help other folks become successful,
Exactly. Like Napoleon Hill says, the fastest way to become successful is to help others become successful, and it'll eventually happen to you.
That's it. And if you have that mindset, it's a lot easier to navigate through life, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, you don't have to remember all these lies. You don't have to remember, I got to act like somebody I'm not. I got to be this. I got to be that. No, you can just be you. And from what I'm learning from you today, Elvira, is just being you is enough. You just got to have that faith and that confidence.
Yeah, that's one thing that I feel a lot of people are struggling with. We call it the 80-20 rule. Of course, there's 20% of us that we wish was different or better, but guess what? God makes no mistakes, and that 20% we need. I know in my situation, my circumstance, I pray to God. I'm like, God, why did you make me so stern and, so ambitious?
Sure.
But then I hear God speaking to me and tell me, Elvira, you needed that your whole life, or you would not be where you're at today. So be grateful for those things. So if there's anybody out there watching that is down on their 20%, don't be down on it. Just thank God for it. And it's been there to serve you in some way.
Absolutely. Lean into it, as I like to say. Instead of running away from it, just own it. Just accept it. Let it wash over you. And you will be incredibly surprised as to what can end up happening for you when you let that go. Elvira, before we kind of head out, let's make sure everybody knows where they can find you out there in social media land and digital land.
Awesome. You guys can find me on Instagram at I am Elvira Guzman, on LinkedIn, Elvira Guzman, Facebook and Twitter. And my email is super simple, guzmanelvira@aol.com, for anyone who has any questions, or if you guys need mentors or any business inquiries.
Yep. And we'll, of course, put all that information in the description of the video too. So it'll just be right there for you. Elvira, thank you so much for joining me on Connecting Cannabis today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Of course, thank you and congratulations. I love watching your show, and I'm just elated to see all of the progress. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Everybody, go check out Elvira's stuff pronto. Have a good one, everybody. Have a good one, Elvira. Take care.
Thanks to you too.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye-bye.